I will never forget the night I saw them carry a sack, dripping with blood. It was heavy, too heavy for just food or animals. The smell made me sick. I knew something was inside. Something human. I was just a houseboy in Chief Ekaette's house. He was rich, powerful. People feared him. He had visitors that night, men in dark clothes. They laughed, drank, and then carried the sack outside. I hid behind the door, my heart pounding. "Make sure you bury it deep," one of them said. They got into a black car and left. That was the night I knew something was very wrong in that house. The next morning, the village was buzzing. A young girl, Ekaette, had gone missing. Her mother wept at the market square, begging for help. But deep inside, I knew she was already gone. I remembered the sack, the smell. I wanted to tell someone, but who would believe me? Chief Ekaette was untouchable. Even the police greeted him with respect. Speaking up could mean death. I stayed quiet, but guilt ate at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing muffled screams in my head. Had she been alive in that sack? Had she struggled while they carried her away? There was a room in the house no one entered. It was locked, always. But one evening, I saw Chief Ekaette enter with two men. The smell of burnt flesh came out when they opened the door. I peeked through a crack. There was a table with dried blood stains. Skulls lined the shelf. In the center, a small, blood-stained dress. My stomach turned. It was Ekaette's. I backed away slowly, my hands shaking. If they caught me, I'd be next. I had to leave that house. But how? Chief Ekaette controlled everything. Running away wasn't an option. People in the village suspected something but dared not speak. Every year, someone went missing. The elders called it bad luck, but I knew the truth. Chief Ekaette was behind it all. One night, I overheard the maids whispering. "It's the gods he serves," one said. "They demand fresh blood." They silenced themselves quickly when they noticed me listening. I pretended not to hear, but my heart raced. I needed to find proof, something solid. Maybe if I had evidence, the village would rise against him. But who would help me? That night, I lay on my mat, staring at the ceiling. Then, I heard footsteps outside my window, slow, careful. I held my breath. Someone was watching me. The next morning, I found a small note under my door, "Leave while you still can." My hands shook as I read it. Someone knew I had seen too much. But was this person trying to help me or scare me? I stuffed the note in my pocket. I had to act fast. If Chief Ekaette found out I was suspicious, I wouldn't see another sunrise. But where could I run? Ekaette wasn't the only one missing. Two boys had vanished last year. One was my friend, Bassi. His mother swore she saw him at the river, but the next day, he was gone. I remembered how Chief Ekaette had called me to clean his car that same week. There was a stain on the back seat. Dark, almost black. When I wiped it, the rag turned red. I shivered. How many had he taken? How many more would disappear if no one stopped him? But no one dared. Fear ruled the village, and Chief Ekaette knew it. At the market, I met an old woman. She grabbed my wrist and whispered, "You see things you shouldn't." Her eyes were cloudy, but her grip was strong. I wanted to deny it, but she continued, "If you stay, you'll vanish like the others. Leave. The spirits will not rest." Then she let go and walked away. I stood frozen. Had she lost someone too? Did she know about the sack? Or was she warning me about something worse? I didn't know, but I felt death creeping closer. One evening, I followed Chief Ekaette's driver. He took a narrow bush path, away from the village. I stayed hidden, stepping carefully. Then I saw it, a shrine. Skulls hung from the trees. A red cloth covered the altar, and something fresh dripped onto the ground. The driver knelt, whispering prayers to a carved idol. I felt sick. This was where it happened. This was where he brought them. I turned to leave, but my foot snapped a twig. The driver turned sharply. Had he seen me? I ran. Branches scratched my skin, but I didn't stop. I heard footsteps behind me, fast and angry. My heart pounded. If they caught me, I'd end up like Ekaette. I reached the village and ducked into a shop. The owner, a kind old man, looked at me with confusion. "Are you being followed?" he asked. I nodded, breathless. He pulled me behind the counter just as the driver passed by, looking around. My hands shook. I had seen too much. If I stayed, I was dead. But where would I go? I decided to tell my closest friend, Uduak. He listened, his face pale. "This is dangerous," he whispered. "We need proof." That night, we snuck into Chief Ekaette's backyard. I showed him the window to the forbidden room. But as I turned, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Uduak wasn't afraid. He was smiling. "You shouldn't have told me," he said. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I had walked into a trap. Strong hands grabbed me. I kicked and screamed, but they stuffed a cloth in my mouth. "Stupid boy," a voice hissed. "You think you can fight powers bigger than you?" They dragged me inside the house. Chief Ekaette sat in his chair, smiling. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing," he said, sipping his drink. "You should have stayed quiet." Terror gripped me. I was about to become the next sacrifice. I thought of Ekaette, of the others. Was this how they felt before they died? They tied my hands behind my back and dragged me into the forbidden room. The smell of blood was overwhelming. The floor was stained red. I fought, but they were too strong. Chief Ekaette picked up a knife. "Your life will bring me wealth," he said. The men chanted, their eyes wide. A black pot bubbled over the fire. I closed my eyes, praying for a miracle. I didn't want to die. Not like this. Then suddenly, there was a loud bang outside. Someone was coming. The front door burst open. It was the old woman from the market, and behind her were angry villagers, holding sticks and machetes. "Enough," she shouted. Chief Ekaette's men hesitated. The villagers stormed in, knocking them aside. The old woman caught my ropes, her hands steady. "You're safe now," she whispered. I stumbled back, watching as Chief Ekaette tried to run. But the villagers were faster. They grabbed him, their faces full of rage. His reign of terror was over. They dragged him to the shrine, forcing him to his knees. "How many?" someone yelled. "How many have you killed?" Chief Ekaette was silent, his eyes cold. The old woman stepped forward. "The gods will judge you." The villagers tied him up and left him at the shrine, alone. The elders said the spirits would take care of him. The next morning, he was gone. Only his clothes remained, soaked in blood. No one ever spoke of him again. But the village was never the same. Even after his death, strange things happened. Some nights, we heard whispers in the wind. People claimed to see shadows near the shrine. The old woman told us, spirits don't rest when they die with blood on their hands. We avoided that place, fearing what lingered. I never forgot Ekaette. I never forgot what I saw. Evil lives among us, hiding behind wealth and power. And sometimes, even death isn't enough to stop it. Days after Chief Ekaette's disappearance, his house stood empty. But at night, people heard screams from inside. Some said they saw his shadow walking past the windows. The villagers avoided the place, but one night, 2 thieves entered, hoping to steal from his abandoned mansion. Only one came out, screaming. The other was never found. The elders declared the house cursed. No one dared go near it again. I knew the truth. Chief Ekaette's victims weren't at peace. They wanted justice. One night, the house caught fire. Flames swallowed the walls, reaching for the sky. No one tried to put it out. The villagers watched in silence. By morning, nothing remained except ashes. But among the ruins, the forbidden room was untouched. The bloodstains on the floor were still fresh. It was as if the fire had refused to burn it. The old woman nodded knowingly. "Not all things can be erased," she said. I shivered. The past refused to be forgotten. Weeks later, I had a dream. Ekaette stood by the river, her white dress stained with blood. "Find me," she whispered, pointing at the forest. "Find us." I woke up sweating. Was it just a dream? Or was she really calling to me? I couldn't ignore it. I had to go back to where Chief Ekaette took them. The next morning, I took a machete and headed to the shrine. I had to uncover the truth, even if it killed me. The shrine was silent, the air thick with death. I dug where the old altar stood, my hands shaking. Minutes passed. Then my machete hit something. I cleared the dirt and froze. Bones. So many bones. Skulls with cracks, tiny ribs, broken fingers. My stomach turned. This was where they ended up. The villagers arrived when they heard my cries. They saw what I saw. The truth was finally out. Chief Ekaette had killed more than we ever imagined. The police were called, but I knew they wouldn't do much. Chief Ekaette had friends in high places. The only thing left of him was blood and whispers. Still, they took the bones, placing them in white cloth. The elders performed rites, begging the spirits to rest. But deep inside, I knew peace wouldn't come so easily. That night, I heard crying outside my window. But when I looked, no one was there. The past wasn't done with me yet. A high-ranking judge came to the village, promising justice. He wanted to know everything about Chief Ekaette's crimes. The villagers told him everything. But when night fell, the judge left in a hurry. His guard said he had seen something in his room, a shadow with no face, standing by his bed. The case was closed the next morning. No investigation. No justice. Chief Ekaette's power reached even beyond death. The shrine was destroyed, but no grass grew there again. Animals avoided it. Hunters who passed by swore they heard whispers calling their names. The elders sealed the land with sacrifices, but the spirits weren't satisfied. It was as if something still lingered, waiting. One night, I saw a light flickering at the shrine. I told myself it was my imagination. But deep down, I knew Chief Ekaette's evil had left a scar that would never heal. Months later, I saw a boy at the market. He had the same scar on his forehead as Bassi, my missing friend. I ran after him, calling his name. The boy turned, confused. "I don't know you," he said. But his eyes, they were the same. A cold shiver ran through me. Was Bassi back? Or had Chief Ekaette's spirits returned in another form? The thought haunted me. Some things should stay buried. The wind carried voices at night. I often woke up to whispers outside my window, calling my name. The villagers said I had disturbed the dead. The old woman gave me a small charm. "Keep this," she said. "The ones who see too much are never free." I tied it around my neck, but the whispers didn't stop. The past had its grip on me, and it wasn't letting go. One day, the old woman vanished. No one saw her leave. No footprints, no signs of struggle. It was as if she had never existed. Her house stood empty. Inside, I found a small note on her bed. It had my name on it. "Run," it said. I clenched the paper, fear rising in my chest. Whatever haunted this village wasn't done. And now, it was coming for me. I decided to leave the village. I packed my things, but as I stepped outside, I saw something at the gate. A figure, tall and shadowed. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. My legs felt frozen. My heart pounded. I turned to call for help, but when I looked back, the figure was gone. That night, I locked my door and didn't sleep. I knew what it was. The past doesn't let go so easily. At sunrise, I took a bus to the city. The village faded behind me. I told myself it was over, that I was free. But deep inside, I knew the truth. As the bus passed the forest, I saw something in the trees, Chief Ekaette's face, grinning at me. I blinked, and it was gone. I looked away, gripping my charm. Evil never really dies. It just waits for the next victim. Years later, I saw a headline in the news, "Wealthy businessman missing after visiting village." The picture was of a man I didn't know. He had bought Chief Ekaette's land, planning to build a mansion. But 3 days after arriving, he disappeared. His car was found abandoned. No body. No trace. I closed the paper. The spirits hadn't forgiven. The land still thirsted for blood. Even in the city, I still had nightmares. I saw Ekaette, standing in a field of bones, pointing at something behind me. I never turned around. The whispers followed me, in hotel rooms, in dark alleys. No matter how far I ran, I was never alone. I started sleeping with the lights on, but it didn't help. I had seen too much. And now, I was part of the story. I stopped talking about what happened. People wouldn't believe me. Or worse, they'd start seeing things too. But sometimes, when I pass by a mirror, I see a shadow behind me. And when I turn, it's gone. I'm telling you this so you understand. Evil doesn't die. It waits. And one day, it might call your name too.